When I was taken to heaven some few years ago, they took me to a high mountain and they showed me a city. And the angel said, that is the city of TL Osborne. And I said, that is my grandfather in the faith. I came back to my body a few weeks ago. A few weeks after that, I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was leaving Tulsa and I called Elsie. I flew with Continental to Houston and to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the Lord said, change the routing. Go through Chicago. So I called Elsie. I said, Elsie, route me through Chicago. He said, well, I said, I don't know. Just get me through Chicago. I got to Chicago airport and my flight was delayed for 2 hours. So I decided to go have cappuccino at Starbucks. I was in the line waiting for my turn to have cappuccino. Then I heard the voice of the Lord and he said, lift up your head and look. And I lifted up my head and I looked to my right side. TL Osborne was sitting there having coffee. And I went to him and I said, Grandpa. And he said, Nicholas, sit down. And I said, Grandpa, I saw your city in heaven. And he said, I know. That's why I'm over 80 and I'm still preaching the gospel. Are you hearing me?
TL Osborne, an American evangelist whose crusades filled stadiums across the globe. From New York to Manila, his name spoken in churches, his miracles inspired millions across the globe. All the world focused on the lights, the miracles, the gatherings. Very few knew what he actually did for Africa. We are going to uncover the Africa you didn't know TL Osborne changed forever. Many Africans don't realize this, but one of the most dangerous effects of colonialism was not political, it was spiritual. Africans were taught that God spoke English better, power came from overseas, and miracles arrived with missionaries. Even when Africans believed in Jesus, the image of God was still foreign. And colonialism didn't just occupy lands, it also occupied imaginations. TL Osborne arrived in Africa and did something incredible in his time. He preached that God can heal Africans through Africans, and power doesn't need only a white vessel. He didn't just preach miracles, right? He normalized them among Africans. He made Africans belong. He made Africans inclusive. To TL Osborne, this wasn't just about crusades. It was about making Africans believe that God didn't belong to someone else. God belonged to everybody. So by that, he made an all-inclusive worship accessible to Africans. For many Africans, right, in Africa, this was the first time they felt Christianity was actually not borrowed. During colonial Christianity, the solution was always the same: send in more missionaries, more white faces, more foreign control, more dependence of Africans. But TL Osborne chose a different pathway. Now, this was the colonial pattern. Mission boards raised money in Europe and in America. Now, these funds paid missionaries, but Africans remained assistants, translators, and converts. Africa was evangelized but rarely empowered. You could, as at that time, understand that Christianity grew, right? But then ownership didn't. Now, this was the disruption of TL Osborne. Instead of exporting American missionaries, he decided to finance Africans. He actually financed tens of thousands of African evangelists, paid for travel, their equipment, their crusades. He actually trusted that locals could reach locals. He believed Africans didn't need replacement, they needed resources, which was very key. Now, this was crucial during that time because true freedom isn't when someone speaks for you, right? True freedom comes when somebody invests in your voice. And this wasn't about charity, it was about trust. He trusted the Africans to carry the gospel to other Africans. He believed in local to local reach. For many Africans, right, this was the first time the gospel felt owned and not managed. Now, this chapter is very, very key because colonial Christianity had an address, right? There were mission stations, there were church compounds, there were basically controlled spaces. Okay? Now, Faith was something that Africans were invited into, not something that they carried out. I mean, mission spaces were ordered, they were saved, they were European, but then there was something about them. Authority was within the walls. And this made Africans feel like guests, or yes, let me just say they felt like guests and not partakers. Let's flip the script. TL Osborne did something amazing. He took Christianity to public spaces. So now there were open air crusades, which was happening in the markets, the fields, the stadiums. There was nothing like mission gatekeeping, right? And as at that time, I think it's safe to say he wasn't preaching a God that lived behind colonial fences. He preached a God that was open to all. Now, this is why this really mattered, because when Christianity enters public spaces, it stops being foreign. Now, it wasn't looking like Africans needed to visit Christianity. Christianity actually met them where they were. In this chapter, TL Osborne did something very, very unique, I must say, because especially when in today's world, people talk about the fact that the whites came to brainwash us with the Bible and all that. It wasn't true for everybody. TL Osborne actually preached dignity before doctrine. You know, colonial Christianity had an issue of being good at teaching what Africans need to believe, or teaching Africans what to believe. But it rarely does that when it comes to the self-worth of Africans. Africans were still saved, but they were still shamed. Now, TL Osborne preached something very subtle, but very, very powerful. God values African bodies. Healing restores honor, not just health. Now, the healing wasn't physical anymore. It was about restoration of human worth. Now, for this reason, it was very important for TL Osborne to do that. Colonialism strips you of dignity before it even takes land. And this really inspired the African mentality, because before every African at that time would argue doctrine, they felt value. Now, in conclusion, looking at what we discussed up till now, I know it is very safe to say TL Osborne left Africa stronger than he found it. And this is why I say so. When you look at colonial systems, they survive by making themselves indispensable. If you leave as a colonial master and everything collapses, then you were not building people. Now, this is the key thing. TL Osborne intentionally made himself unnecessary, right? He trained and trusted Africans. He refused to centralize power around his name. And one of the key things he did was the fact that he left systems instead of dependency. And this is how emancipation works. Now, why this matter today? Let's bring it to the present, okay? Because the strongest proof of decolonization is what survives your absence. Now, African Christianity didn't collapse when TL Osborne left. It rather multiplied. This goes to prove about the solid foundations of TL Osborne. He made Africa stronger than he found it. He didn't just visit Africa. He respected Africa enough to leave it standing on its own. Now, what a way to check out. What a way to inspire people. What a way to leave a legacy. Now, what part of this story leaves you surprised the most? Kindly leave your comments in the comment section. Subscribe, turn on post notifications to receive updates on contents, Christian faith-based content such as this. Thank you for staying through. See you in the next episode.